Welcome to OTO, the Out of the Office Investigation.
I'm Alex.
And I'm Ben. In today's investigation, Alex, we're digging into a mystery that's been buried for millennia. A secret hidden right under our noses, deep inside the world's largest rainforest. It's an incredible story about an ancient, almost magical soil, a lost technology that kind of defies modern science. And what's so fascinating is that this black earth might just hold the key not only to the future of our food, but to our own personal health and really the health of the entire planet. It's a journey that connects forgotten civilizations straight to our own backyards.
Okay, Ben, let's just jump right into this paradox. Our investigation starts deep in the Amazon. Now, when you and I picture the Amazon, we see this incredibly lush, vibrant ecosystem, right? Just an explosion of green, absolutely teeming with life. But that very image, that's the heart of the mystery. You see, this unbelievably dense jungle is actually growing on some of the most nutrient-poor, acidic, and frankly infertile soil on the face of the earth. The rain there is so constant and heavy that it literally washes away all the good stuff in a process called leaching, leaving behind little more than clay. So all that vibrant life is really just a razor-thin, super fragile layer. And that leads to a central, totally baffling question for our investigation.
Exactly, Alex. That's the core of it, isn't it? How did these massive civilizations, we're talking populations estimated between 6 and 10 million people, which is more than many modern countries, build these sprawling cities, complex trade networks, and advanced agricultural systems in a place where modern farming techniques often fail after just a single season? It just doesn't add up. Like you said, the intense heat and the constant heavy rain should break down any organic matter almost instantly and just flush all the nutrients away. So how in the world did they sustain themselves for centuries on end?
And Ben, this slide just illustrates that contradiction so perfectly. On the one hand, you've got the typical Amazonian soil. Scientists call it oxysalts. It's basically this yellowish-red toxic clay, super acidic, and almost devoid of life. If you clear the forest to try and farm it, you might get one, maybe two decent harvests before it's completely shot. But then, scattered throughout this infertile landscape, archaeologists started finding these deep, dark patches of something else entirely. Terra Preta, which literally means black earth. It's deep, it's dark, it's crumbly, and it's so packed with nutrients and microbial life that some of these plots have stayed fertile for over 2,000 years, continuously feeding people without any modern fertilizers. It's a total anomaly that shouldn't even exist. Now, this is where our investigation gets really interesting, Alex, because it adds this layer of modern intrigue. When a Dutch soil scientist named Wim Sombroek rediscovered this stuff and documented it back in the 1960s, it really should have changed global agriculture overnight. I mean, here was a proven method to create permanent, self-renewing fertile soil from local waste. But it wasn't widely adopted. In fact, for decades, it was pretty much ignored. Some people even argue it was actively pushed aside because it threatened a massive, multi-billion-dollar agricultural industry that's built entirely on a model of dependency, this idea that farmers have to buy synthetic fertilizers and pesticides every single year. A permanent solution is just bad for a business that sells temporary fixes.
So that brings us to the first huge breakthrough in this OOT investigation. For centuries, when European scientists and explorers stumbled upon these dark patches of soil, they had a pretty simple explanation. Oh, they must be natural volcanic deposits, or maybe dried-up lake beds. The prevailing mindset just couldn't imagine that indigenous people could have intentionally engineered a soil that was far superior to anything they had in Europe. But then, modern chemical and microscopic analysis revealed the astonishing truth. Terra Preta was 100% man-made, and its secret ingredient was something deceptively simple.
And that key, Alex, is biochar. Now, it is absolutely crucial to understand that this is not ash, okay? When you burn wood completely in a big open fire, you get ash. It has some nutrients, sure, but it's water-soluble and just washes away in the very first rain. Biochar is totally different. It's made through a process called pyrolysis, which is really just a fancy way of saying you're cooking organic matter with very little oxygen. Think of it like making charcoal in a sealed kiln instead of just burning a log in a campfire. This process doesn't destroy the carbon's physical structure, it transforms it into this incredibly stable, super porous form of charcoal that becomes the permanent backbone of the soil.
And the process they developed was just pure genius. They didn't practice the destructive slash and burn we see today, which absolutely destroys soil. No, they practiced a regenerative slash and char. They'd smolder wood and all sorts of other organic waste in pits, or maybe some specialized kilns, to create this biochar. Then, they would mix it into the soil along with literally everything else from their settlements, broken pottery shards, which helped with aeration and water retention, animal and fish bones for phosphorus and calcium, food scraps, and even human and animal waste, which charged the biochar with all those crucial nutrients. Over centuries, generation after generation, this practice built up these incredible, deep layers of black earth that amazingly became a self-renewing, living thing.
So how does this stuff actually work, Alex? The magic is all in the structure. It's important to know that biochar by itself isn't a fertilizer. In fact, if you put it in raw, it can initially pull nutrients from the soil. Its real power comes from its physical properties. The best analogy is to think of it like a coral reef for the soil. First, it has this massive internal surface area. A single gram can have the surface area of a couple of basketball courts, and its negative electrical charge makes it a total nutrient magnet, grabbing and holding on to good stuff that would otherwise get washed away. Second, it's a microhotel, providing countless tiny, protected homes for beneficial microbes and fungi to live in, safe from predators. And finally, it's a water sponge, soaking up moisture during heavy rains and then releasing it slowly during dry spells. It doesn't just feed the plants, it builds a permanent, thriving underground city that takes care of itself.
This is where our investigation pivots, Ben, from this amazing ancient history right into our modern reality. Because this isn't just about growing food, it's about the quality of that food and its direct, profound impact on our bodies and our minds. We're now finally beginning to understand the undeniable connection between the life in the soil microbiome, and the life in our gut, the human microbiome. They aren't separate things. They're two parts of the exact same system. You are listening to OTO, the Out of the Office Investigation, with research by El Campesina de la Huerta.
And the stakes here, Alex, are just unbelievably high. Look at this number on the slide. This is a shocking statistic that really sets the stage for our modern health crisis. Over the last 100 years or so, intensive industrial farming has stripped up to 85% of the essential minerals from our farmlands in many parts of the world. We've basically treated soil like it's just inert dirt, something to prop plants up in while we pump them full of a few synthetic chemicals like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. We just take and take and take, but we don't give back. And the consequences of that massive mineral withdrawal are now playing out inside our own bodies. So, let's break down this whole destructive process. It all starts with industrial agriculture. You have practices like heavy tillage, plowing, which physically tears apart the delicate fungal networks and crushes the little homes of microbes. Then there's monocropping, where you just grow one single crop year after year, which starves the soil of diversity. And then the constant application of synthetic fertilizers and pesticides. It acts like a chemical blitzkrieg, just wiping out the beneficial bacteria, fungi, worms, everything. This whole ecosystem, the soil food web, which is essential for making minerals available to plants, gets completely sterilized. Industrial farming turns a living ecosystem into dead dirt.
And the next step is a direct and frankly logical consequence of that dead soil. When the soil is degraded, it can no longer do its main job, which is to transfer the full spectrum of essential minerals and phytonutrients to the plants growing in it. So even if a carrot looks like a carrot, its nutritional profile can be dramatically lower than one grown just a few decades ago. Study after study has shown these huge declines in everything from iron and zinc to essential vitamins in our common fruits and vegetables. We are literally eating nutritional ghosts of the food our grandparents ate.
And Ben, this slide right here shows the critical link to our own health. Groundbreaking research is showing more and more that our gut microbiome, the trillions of bacteria and fungi living inside us, it co-evolved directly with the biodiversity in our environment, especially the soil. We are meant to be in contact with this life. So when our modern, sterile food system gives us a diet that lacks nutrient density and microbial diversity, our internal ecosystem gets damaged. And this isn't just about digestion. Our gut microbiome produces neurotransmitters like serotonin, it regulates our immune system, it talks directly to our brain. A damaged gut is now being linked to everything from anxiety and depression to autoimmune disorders.
And so the final result is the global health epidemic we are seeing all around us. This explosion of chronic, non-communicable diseases, things like type 2 diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, and, as you just mentioned, Alex, a whole host of mental health issues. The science now lets our investigation connect the dots in a clear, undeniable line. It starts with degraded soil, which leads to nutrient-poor food, which leads to a damaged gut microbiome, and which finally shows up as this massive wave of chronic illness. It all starts with the health of the earth right under our feet.
Okay, so Ben, after laying out that pretty serious global problem, our investigation now has to shift from the crisis to the solution. And the beauty of this is that the principles of Terra Preta aren't just for ancient Amazonians or giant industrial farms. They are totally scalable all the way down to the individual level. We can apply this ancient wisdom right in our own backyards, or on our patios, or in community gardens. These are simple, powerful techniques to start building living, fertile soil yourself, creating a personal food system that completely bypasses the need for synthetic fertilizers and starts to restore that soil health connection we've been talking about.
Let's start with a classic, and it's incredibly effective: trench composting. This is a fantastic way to compost in situ, which just means right in the place where your plants will actually grow. As you can see, you just dig a trench in your garden bed about a foot deep. You then fill it with all your kitchen scraps: vegetable peels, coffee grounds, eggshells, and your yard waste like weeds and grass clippings. Then you cover it all up with the soil you dig from the next trench over. You create this slow-moving line of fertility right through your garden. By the time you're ready to plant on top of it, all that material underneath has started breaking down, attracting earthworms, and creating this wonderfully rich, moisture-retentive zone that hungry crops like zucchini and tomatoes absolutely love.
And Ben, if a full-on trench seems like a bit too much work, there's an even simpler, more versatile method called dig and drop. This is perfect for any size garden, and it's especially great for established flower beds or around trees where you don't want to disturb existing plants. Instead of a long trench, you just dig individual holes, maybe a foot deep, drop in a few days' worth of kitchen scraps, and cover them back up with the soil you just took out. Over time, you can dot these little pockets of fertility all around your garden, feeding the soil web directly and building that rich, dark soil without ever needing a big, bulky compost pile. It's simple, it's out of sight, and it's incredibly effective.
So Alex, we've talked about the individual garden, which is a really powerful first step. But now let's zoom the focus of our investigation out a bit. How can this ancient wisdom, this focus on regenerating soil, scale up to help us build stronger, healthier, and more resilient local communities? This really goes beyond just personal gardening. It's about fundamentally rethinking our local food and economic systems to create these closed loops of fertility and wealth. You're listening to O2, the Out of the Office Investigation, with research by El Campesino de la Huerta.
This slide, Ben, visualizes that economic shift perfectly. The industrial ag model is fundamentally about economic extraction. Money you spend on food at a big supermarket goes to distributors, processors, and distant corporate headquarters. Profits from massive farms are funneled out of rural areas. But a regenerative, local food system does the complete opposite. It fosters local reinvestment. The money you spend at a farmer's market goes directly to a local farmer who then buys tools at the local hardware store, hires local help, and eats at the local diner. It creates a circular economy that builds genuine community wealth and stability from the ground up. And Alex, that leads to a really critical question of mindset that our investigation has to address. Our current system is just obsessed with hypergrowth, efficiency, and scaling up at all costs. But a truly regenerative approach requires what some people call a slow growth or slow money mindset. So the question becomes, how do we build these local systems in a way that truly benefits the community and the ecosystem without falling into the old traps of exploitation or corporate greenwashing? That's the key challenge, isn't it? It means we have to value long-term ecological health over short-term quarterly profits. It's about focusing on sustainable, equitable development that prioritizes healthy soil, healthy people, and strong community bonds above all else. It's a fundamental shift in how we even define wealth.
As we start to bring this Odo investigation to a close, Ben, it's become crystal clear that Terra Preta is so much more than just a historical curiosity. It's not some relic of the past, but a proven, functioning roadmap for a regenerative and sustainable future. The answers we've been so desperately searching for in high-tech labs and complex global supply chains, well, they've been right here, under our feet this whole time.
And this timeline really just puts it all into a grand perspective. This is a technology that indigenous people developed and perfected over thousands of years, starting as far back as 7000 BCE. It's an incredible legacy of knowledge that was tragically lost for centuries after those civilizations collapsed following European contact. It was only rediscovered and really understood as man-made in the 1960s. So today, we're in this exciting phase of rediscovery and reapplication, with scientists, farmers, and gardeners using these ancient principles to solve our most pressing modern problems. That question mark at the end? That's for us, Alex. It's a challenge. What are we going to do with this rediscovered knowledge over the next millennium?
So we end our investigation with this final thought. For so long, we've looked to the sky for answers, to technology, to satellites, to these complex industrial solutions. But maybe the most profound and elegant technology, the real secret to a healthy future for both us and the planet, has been right here, in the soil, just patiently waiting for us to remember it. The question isn't what do we do anymore, it's are we ready to get our hands dirty and start digging? For OTO, the Out of the Office Investigation, I'm Alex.
And I'm Ben. Thanks for joining us.